Okay, everyone, good morning. I think, at least according to my clock, it is 9 o'clock, and so we are ready to get started. And I know we already have a lot of people on here, and more are joining, and probably will continue to join over the next 5 minutes. So I'm so excited to get started on the 3 steps to write your book in 75 days. We did this workshop yesterday, and it was incredibly fun, and I think quite successful. I got an email last night from Carrie who said, I have opened up Microsoft Word however many times, a lot of times, to try to start getting content on paper. And I've gotten overwhelmed and just stopped every single time. But after the workshop today, I was able to get the rough draft of my outline finished by 8 o'clock tonight. So thank you. So Carrie, congratulations. Way to go. That is amazing. And that is the goal of this, is to take the bark out of it, or to take the bite out. What do they say? It's more bark than bite. So I guess we're going to take the bite at, who cares? Anyway, it's too early and I haven't had enough coffee. But at any rate, welcome. And I asked a little bit ago for you guys to let me know in the chat where you're from. And so that's always fun for me because it lets me figure out maybe where to go next. We have Jillian from Tampa. Good morning. We have Carol from Columbus, David from Milwaukee, Grace from Boston. I'm very partial to the name Grace, as that is my oldest daughter's name. Chris from Detroit, Nikki from Chicago, Abby, Council Bluffs. I think that's Iowa or Nebraska. We have Billy in Lincoln. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Again, we're going to try to keep this to yesterday. I was very impressed with myself. I kept it to exactly 1 hour in total, including the Q&A. So that's my goal today as well. We do about 40 to 45 minutes of actionable information and content, and then we move right into the Q&A. So let us just jump right in. What I'd like for you guys to do is put your focus here for the next 40 to 60 minutes. Grab a pen and a piece of paper, turn off your ringer, close out your other windows that you have open, your other applications that you have open, put the dog outside, whatever you need to do in order not to be distracted. This is your time. And as I'm going to teach you in the next 40 or so minutes, being disciplined about your time when you're writing a book is about 93.8% of the battle. You will leave this webinar having taken critical steps toward getting your book written. So tell me, have you started down the book writing road? And you can answer, go ahead and put your answer in the chat section, because I really do want to know where everyone is with this. Okay, so Chris, yes. Nikki, I've started but get overwhelmed. Okay, and I know I'm going to hear that a lot. I've started but then I get overwhelmed. Jillian, I think about doing it all the time, but I get bogged down in what to do after the book is written. Okay, we're going to address that. So these are incredibly common, and if it makes you feel any better, I feel many of them the same time myself, and I've already written 3 books and I'm on 4 and 5. So you're in the right place if you have a story to tell or a message to share. You get overwhelmed when you think about writing a book. So I'm pretty sure that I just heard from a few of you that that's definitely the case. You've started and stopped and started and then stopped again, working on your book umpteen times, and you're ready for someone to hold you accountable. You wonder whether or not you can become a best-selling author if you don't have author credentials. And as a little hint, yes, you can. You wonder whether anyone will even want to read your book once it's written. Another little hint, they will. You justify your stalling with both the above statements, plus your fear that the publishing process will simply be too expensive. I'm going to invite you to stick around until the end. Again, I'm only going to keep you for 45 to 60 minutes, and hopefully you're not going to feel like you're being kept at all, because we're going to move very quickly into some actionable content. But there is a fast action bonus available at the end that has a value of $275 if you are going to stick around till the very end. So I encourage you to do that. Did you know that a recent survey by the New York Times revealed that of those surveyed, 85% of them believe that they have a book in them, but only 1% of them ever write it? And that should say ever, not every. Why is that? Well, over the last 13 years as a writer and a publisher, I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of writers, and they've all weighed in on why they felt this way, as well as aspiring authors and people with a story feel this way. So here are the things that I hear the most frequently. I don't know where to start. This whole industry is so overwhelming. I don't believe that my story is interesting or relevant. I don't have time to write a book. I have no idea what to do once the book is written. Does any of that sound familiar? And you can just answer yes or no or maybe in the chat box. So yes, yes. Okay. Chris has yes with about 13 exclamation points behind it. So, okay. I thought it would sound familiar because, again, I've heard it hundreds, if not thousands of times. So let's do things a little bit differently. In a standard webinar, many times, not all the time certainly, but many times there's lots of information, but no actionable strategies to get you on your way. And my promise to you is that by the end of this webinar, you will be writing your book. So the 3 steps that are the most critical in my mind for writing a book are clarifying your why, brainstorming content, and stopping worrying about certain things, which we're going to get to here in just a second. A little bit about who I am, because that's probably important to you as you begin this. Again, my name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm a best-selling author, and I'm also a writing and a publishing coach. In addition, I'm a jewelry and a product designer and a mom of 5. So lest you think, it's easy for us all to come up with reasons why other people are able to do things and we aren't. Lest you think that I just am sitting here all day with nothing to do but write and publish. That is wildly inaccurate. And in order to keep writing, I have to work off of a proven process because my time is really valuable and I have to be efficient about my time. So I'll tell you a quick little story about my first best-selling book. I was pregnant and I went for a routine ultrasound, and instead of seeing one baby, we saw 2. So this was before the dawn of Amazon. So we went running to Barnes and Noble right after that appointment because I was committed to acquiring every possible book that had been written on the subject. And then fast forward 8 or so months, and I found myself in this position most of the time with a baby or babies on top of me trying to sleep or just be content in general. And I felt a little bit sad and frustrated. And the reason was that of all of those books that I purchased, many of them had some good tips and tricks, but more often than not, they left me feeling as though this whole experience was the end of my life. There was no humor. There were no, you're gonna make it. There was no empowerment, no motivation. And I thought, that is so unfortunate. And I had been a fan of the Girlfriend's Guide series when I had my daughter prior to that. And I thought, where's the Girlfriend's Guide to having twins? So I put my love of writing, which I've been doing since as long as I can remember, and my love of business and needing to put the two together and needing a creative outlet outside of being a mom. And out came, no pun intended, my first book, Ready or Not, Here We Come, The Real Expert's Guide to the First Year with Twins. And then from there, I wrote the sequel to that, Ready or Not, There We Go, which was the guide to the toddler years with twins. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, I released my third book, You Cannot Be Serious, and 32 Other Rules That Sustain a Mostly Balanced Mom. From there, so I had this light bulb moment, right? And I published these 3 books. I self-published them. That's another story entirely. I was very blessed to be able to get some great segments on morning shows. And I started doing some keynote speaking engagements for corporations on work-life balance. I published the second book. I created a membership site for parents of twins. And then I ended up inventing and creating a product for parents, and was able to even partner up with this is my friend Nicole Curtis, some amazing people who, this just goes to show, I just reached out to Nicole one day and we became fast friends. So people in the industry, some of them, yes, are inaccessible, but many of them are not nearly as inaccessible as we believe them to be, especially if you approach them in a genuine manner. So, and then my final book, You Cannot Be Serious, was released. So that seems so easy, right? You write a book, you put it out there, you make some partnerships, and off you go. No. Why? Because in the process of writing that book, This right here is what I felt. I was lost and confused and unsure of myself, and everything was unclear. And I was just, I really felt disoriented. I was like, do I go left? Do I go right? There was so much information. And now there's even more information, by the way. But at the time, there was a lot of information on how to do this and what not to do. And the whole industry felt quite prohibitive. So here I was, just frustrated as could be. I felt overwhelmed by the whole process. How do I get from point A to point Z? I was confused. I was frankly terrified. I was really afraid of putting myself out there. After all, I didn't, and this comes down to the unsure of myself part too. I'm not a doctor or a nurse or a social worker or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I thought that, why would new parents of twins want me to tell them how to do this? I don't have any quote expert unquote credentials to walk them through this, not realizing at the time that I actually had the greatest credential of all, which was that I had been where they are. And so I understood their feelings, not all of them, certainly, because we aren't all wired the same way, but many of them in a better way, a more effective way than people who are just trained to understand their feelings. So I went through all of this. But while I was feeling so overwhelmed, what I neglected to think about is that the first step is getting the book written. It was pointless to worry about how it would be received and how I would get it published and how I would market it, because I didn't have a book to promote. I didn't even have a book for people to react to, not even an editor yet to react to. So step one is unconditionally getting the book written. And the requirement, the very first and foremost requirement of getting a book written is having an efficient process. The biggest lesson that I learned and have learned through my entire book writing career is that neglecting your why and not understanding how to brainstorm content, these are the first two steps of writing a book. And they're the ones that most writers neglect or outright just don't know about, and therefore sort of neglect by omission just because they don't know. Not doing those things creates confusion and overwhelm, and by default, procrastination. I want you to take just a moment to imagine how it will feel when you are finally sitting down to write that story or that message, and it feels effortless and fun, and you feel accomplished. And it's like, I knew I could do this. And the joy of bringing the stories to life, your unique story to life. And then ultimately, and this is down the road, but holding that story in, because this is the ultimate goal, right? Is to hold that book in your hands and know that you did this. You created this. This is your unique contribution. It all starts here though, guys, with writing the book. So let's dive right in. Write your book in 75 days, the 3 steps. Step 1, clarify your why. Guys, I cannot stress enough how important this is, whether you're writing a book, starting a business, trying to figure out what paint color to use in your room. You have to know the why behind the things that you're doing. Otherwise, the end result is often so disconnected from that why, and you feel completely confused and you don't know why. And the reason is because you didn't take the time to figure out, why do I want to get there? What do I want this to look like? And how do I ensure that it is so? So tell me, again, go over to your chat room and tell me, why do you want to write a book? Okay, so Carol says, I want to influence. No, I'm sorry. Okay, so you're writing and erasing at the same time. I want to impact others with my story. Grace is saying, I think it would be cathartic, and if it helps other people too, that's great. Okay, and Chris is typing, I want to let people know the unique strategies that I have learned in my business. Okay, and I hear that all the time as well. So those are all fantastic and wonderful reasons to write a book. Now, people ask me frequently, should I write a book? And of course, yes, but I don't like the word should. And whenever I talk about being entrepreneurial in any sense, I talk about my dislike of that word because we rarely do things that rarely are the things that we feel we should do things that we enjoy. We say things like, I should do the laundry, or I should really get this house cleaned, or but we don't say things like, gosh, I should go to Fiji, or gosh, I should, treat myself to scuba diving lessons. So more often than not, when people ask me, should I write a book? My question is, well, who told you that you should? Because that's where it's coming from. A friend or a family member or a colleague said, oh my gosh, you should totally write a book about this. Or your life is so fascinating, you should totally write a book. And sometimes that sparks something, right? So someone's never thought that they could write a book and they think, really? So if that's what creates the initial spark, brilliant. If in the end you are only writing a book because someone else told you that you should, and you think, well, I guess I should, then that's going to be challenging down the line for a whole lot of reasons. So always get clear on why you're doing it and whether it's because you want to and you believe that you should because it's in line with who you are and what you want to contribute, not just because someone else tells you that you should do it. Another question I get asked frequently is there a demand for my book? And I love this question because my answer is always yes and no. And here's why. Everything's been written about, guys, everything. And that doesn't mean that a topic, when writers come to me and they say, I have a great idea and it's going to do so well because no one's done it. I say, that's not true. Because every topic has been covered. Now, that doesn't mean it's been covered well. That doesn't mean that there's a best-selling book about that topic. But it does mean that if a person wants to learn about, I can't even think of a great example right now that's obscure, but something that seems obscure, there is something out there for them. It may not be great. It may not give them everything they need, but there is something out there for them. So in that way, is there a demand? No. However, yes, there's a demand because you are the only person who can tell your story the way you can tell it. You are the only person with your experience, with your perspective, with your personality, the tone and the style of your voice and your words and the way that you deliver information and content, the way that you put your wisdom out into the world and your lessons out into the world, and the way that you identify with your readers, your friends, your family, perfect strangers, etc. So in that way, there is always a demand for a new, dare I say, spin on a topic. And when you go and you talk to the New York houses, if you were to go that route and you wanted to propose your book to an agent in the hopes of securing an editor who would purchase your title for publication, one of the most important parts of your proposal is letting your agent and the editor know, well, this is what's already out there, and this is what makes my book different. So you have to be able to clarify that there is going to be a demand for your book because it's different, and here's why. So let's get to the actionable part of this. I'd like you to get that piece of paper out if you don't have it out already, as well as a pen, pencil, marker, preferably not a Sharpie that's going to bleed through everything, but whatever works for you. And I'd like you to fill in this sentence. And we already talked about this a little bit. I want to write a book because. I want your answer written down because I want you to be really clear. And really, in the end, there's no right or wrong to how short or long this is. But is it, I want to influence people. I want to get my story down. I want my story to outlive me. I want to work through some stuff. And so this is cathartic for me. I want to add to my business by having a sellable item that increases my authority and credibility. I want something to sell in the back of the room when I do speaking engagements. I want to book speaking engagements. I want to travel the country or the world, teaching people what I've learned in this area and helping others and empowering others. I want to be a best-selling author. I want to make $672,000 next year as a writer, whatever the case may be. And it's probably a combination of those. I want you to really pinpoint why you want to write a book. What is it, even if you remove the financial end of it, what is it that makes you want to write a book, to do a book as opposed to getting your message out in another way? I also want you to be clear about this. My timeline for getting my book available to my readers is. So the reason I ask this is often one of the defining points for writers as to what publishing approach they choose. When writers say to me, I have a time sensitive subject, or I'm trying to release this information in tandem with something else that's going on in my life or in the world, and therefore I want the book to release in 6 months, I say to them, well, if that's the case, traditional publishing won't work. Because for point of reference, traditional publishing, meaning going with one of the big houses, HarperCollins or Simon and Schuster or whomever, you're looking at an average of 18 to 24 months to publication after the agent has been, after you've found an agent willing to take you on, and after that agent has found an editor who wants to purchase the title. So in reality, you're looking at more like 2 to 3 years. Sure, things get pushed up and depending on certain things, but those are exceptions and not rules. So when people really want to get their book out sooner than later, that's when traditional publishing often comes off of the table as an option. I want my book to enhance others' lives by. So do you want to help people make more money? Do you want to help people get healthier? Do you want people to help people become stronger in their sense of self? Do you want to give people different and better strategies in their business that are unique and new and have your spin on them? And finally, I want my book to enhance my life by. So lots of times writers simply have on their bucket list, I want to publish a book. So do you want your book to enhance my life by being able to say, I'm a published author? Do you want your book and writing and all of the opportunities that come on the back end of that to allow you to make a full-time income as a writer, speaker, course, creating courses, webinar, whatever the case may be? How do you want your book to enhance your life? So overall, your why is critical to determining your publishing and your marketing approaches. And yes, those absolutely come later, but the point is that you have to assess them in the beginning, up front. And you can hone them over time, but you have to be clear about them the whole way through the process. And this is really just touching the tip of the iceberg in terms of identifying what your why is. Step 2 are the areas I do not want you to focus on. And you probably are focusing on them or have focused on them, and they've unnecessarily slowed you down. So these are the areas I don't want you to focus on while you're in the process of writing. Do not edit. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about run-on sentences or flow or content or structure or organization, any of it. Just write. Just write. So people do this in all different ways, but the bottom line is just write and don't worry about what it sounds like. That comes later. Don't worry about order. Don't think, oh my gosh, do I need a foreword? Do I need an afterword? Do I need a prologue? Should I put this in the prologue? No, just write. We will organize it all later. And don't even think about chapter titles or, for the record, the book title. This goes on. There is a portion of when you're writing that the chapter titles and or the book title may just come to you, but don't stress about it. People ask me all the time, well, don't I need to have a title before I start writing the book? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And coming up with a title for your book is an art and a science, and it's one of the most fun things for me to do. But don't think about it right now. It's just going to slow you down and make you procrastinate by thinking about something that you don't need to be thinking about yet. So step 3, and this is where we're going to just start right in, is brainstorming content. So get out that paper and your pen, and we're going to start outlining your book right now, because why wait? Let's just do this thing. So tell me, do you become overwhelmed at the thought of getting all of the content out of your head and onto paper? Go ahead and let me know in the chat session if that resounds. Okay, so yes, yes, yeah, yes. So yes, okay, people become overwhelmed. I become overwhelmed, guys, and I've been writing all my life. So it is very overwhelming to get all of that out of your head and think you're going to miss things and get it onto paper. I loved this quote that I received from Brandy. Brandy was part of the first launch that we did. And she said, I finished an outline. She went through this outlining exercise and says, I finished an outline that I tried to create several times, but always wound up giving up in less than 3 hours. So relieved. Liz's approach made such a daunting and overwhelming project extremely simple. And guys, that's my goal, is to make this simple, because it's not anywhere near as challenging as we make it out to be. So what I want you to do is divide your paper into 8 sections. It can look like this. It can look like this. I don't care. Just make 8 sections. And in box number 1, I want you to write down a time when you had a great aha moment in your journey, right? Whether it's a personal journey, a professional journey, what was a time when you had a great aha, like, oh my gosh, this just clicked moment? And then if you'd be so kind to put your answers in the chat box, if you're comfortable doing so, I would love that, because lots of times, writing a book can be a group effort, and sometimes it takes other people's thoughts to spark your own. So, okay, great. So Joy says, my ad strategy finally clicked, which is, thank heavens, right? Isn't that a beautiful thing when that happens? And Billy says, I was reading Anne Lamott and her words clarified so many things for me. And that happens a lot, by the way, when we're going through something, whether personally or professionally, we read someone else's work and we just think, oh, okay. And so we can use them. We never plagiarize. We never put their tips or tricks into our book, but we can certainly say this was a great resource for me. And so it may be for you as well. So in box 2, I want you to fill in this blank. Write this out. I want my audience to know, and tell me, what do you want your audience, what do you want your readers to know? So Karen says, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars figuring out how to launch a successful business. Right. Crystal, you are enough just as you are. Leslie says you are, quote, good enough to start whatever you want. So a similar theme there between Crystal and Leslie, and it's something that I think everyone struggles with when they're getting started with something is, am I enough? Can I do this? Do I have the right credentials? So in box number 3, this is where I call your how-to number 1, right? So what is a how-to that you learned while you were going through your journey that you didn't know going into it? And coming out of it, you now feel like, gosh, I know how to do this now and I can teach others. And okay, so James, build an effective sales funnel. Oh, God. Well, James, I might need you to teach me a few things someday. April, take back your own power. So we're not, when you fill in these boxes, just so you know, this is just the starting point. Each one of these boxes may end up becoming 4 or 5 subtopics, which each becomes its own chapter. But we're starting at the very highest level of what I call a content brain dump, so that you can just start from somewhere. Because once you get these, I call these the big rocks. Once you get these out, you can then fill in the smaller rocks, the sand, the water, and then there you go. So box 4 is a second how-to, because inevitably you guys have probably dozens of how-tos. So let me know what another how-to is. And from the previous one, I've got Sam saying, create personalized strategies for reframing negative thoughts. Barb said, change a tire. Okay, that is important, Barb. I completely agree with you. And Carrie, who I think is maybe my long lost twin, says, make a great cappuccino so all your all your marketing dollars don't have to go to Starbucks. Right? Good grief. You guys are fun. So box number 5, my greatest struggle or challenge to which I couldn't find an answer or solution was, and this right here is a little side note. This is the pinnacle of your book, right? Because whenever you start a business, write a book, whatever it may be, you are looking to solve a problem for someone. Someone needs a solution and you're going to provide a solution, maybe not necessarily a unique solution, but in a unique way. So the question is, what did you struggle with and what were you challenged by? We're not terminally unique. So if you struggled with it or were challenged by it, in all likelihood, there are hundreds, if not thousands of other people who are as well and need an answer or solution. So what Sarah says, finding someone who believed you didn't have to have $1 million just to get started. Why? I'm seeing a theme here, guys. Jillian, feeling like I didn't deserve to be there because I didn't have the right degrees, right? And she has degrees in quotes because that comes back to credentials. And Brandon, oh, this is smart. Create high quality graphics without hiring an expensive designer. And that is something that a lot of people are teaching right now through courses. I'm seeing it, but that doesn't mean for 1 second that you can't do it through a book, or let people know that you can do it, etc. So in box 6, what is whether you want to call it a mantra, a quote, a saying, for others going through the same journey? So lots of times when we are going, trying to navigate professionally or personally through something, we have words or sayings that when things get real tough, we remind ourselves what they are. And Sam, we again, loving you right now. So Sam says, believe. That is mine. That is mine. I mean, have faith, believe. And I know some of these will feel cliche, and you don't have to title the chapter, the only way out is through, or something that feels cliche, but this is what you're going to write about. Maybe you're going to write about the value of having a saying or what your sayings are. Maybe you're going to make a list of 10 things that people can write on a bulletin board. And these are things you can blog about too, as you are starting to promote your book content. And that is a whole other workshop. But the bottom line is you are just creating content here from which you can extrapolate all kinds of additional content down the road. So Ben says, what's the worst thing that can happen? I actually say that with frequency as well. And Jules, with him, I can do all things. And I think she means God because him is capitalized. So I'm going to insert a side note here about really quickly. I have had, because this made me think of something, Jules. I've had a lot of people say to me, my book, it has a very religious specific focus. Like my book has a Christian focus is what I hear most frequently, probably because 80% of the world is Christian, or claims to be. But anyway, people wonder if that's going to be exclusive. And the answer is yes and no. Yes, it is going to be exclusive. And you just want to think about this. There's no right or wrong to this. If that is whatever your belief is, if we're talking about the spiritual realm, if it's Judaism, Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, atheism, whatever it is, yes, if that's your perspective, you are likely going to exclude people who don't understand or believe in that philosophy. However, you have a very specific niche or niche. I'm in debate with people right now about which way it's pronounced. I've always said niche, but I'm happy to convert if that's the popular choice right now. There's a very strong and large niche for each one of those. So that can actually be helpful for you if you are targeting an audience of people who hold a specific belief structure. So again, another topic, but I wanted to bring that up because I get that question a lot from writers. Is that a good or a bad idea to narrow yourself in that way? So box 7, I remember that time when I felt sad, confused, lost, whatever. Write that time down. Think about it and write it down. Because here's the thing. People wonder if it's okay to be vulnerable when they write a book. And I say, and I actually just did a Facebook Live over on the Publish a Profitable Book Facebook page, which if you aren't already on there, it's facebook.com/publish a profitable book, about being a fraud yesterday and how I had gotten an email from a client I'm currently working with. Her name is Dawn. And she said, my gosh, as I am working through this outline, I'm realizing I have some unresolved stuff of my own. Is that bad? And I said, no, because none of us is ever, fully through anything in this life. What makes you a fraud is when you pretend that you have it all together all the time and that you are 100% on the other side of whatever it is and you never have professional or personal challenges. Not only does it make you a fraud because it's simply not true, but it makes you unrelatable and unapproachable. Your audience now can no longer identify with you because, and they're a little bit intimidated by you. And that is not the kind of relationship that the writers who I end up working with want to create. All the time, I work with writers who want to create a genuine and authentic relationship and rapport with their readers and their audience. And so, do you want to spend your entire book being vulnerable and down in the no, absolutely not, because that's not empowering or inspiring, and that's what you're looking to do. But what you do want to do is let people know, gosh, I remember how this felt. And that is when your readers go, he or she really gets me. And if he or she really gets me, and if they've been where I've been and now they are where they are, then they can get me there too. And that is where you create the greatest connection. I remember when I first launched the first book on twins and I was doing morning shows and they kept putting in my byline that I was a parenting expert. I was like, you guys, you have to change this. Like, make it say parenting, wannabe parenting, wannabe good mom, because there's no such thing as a parenting expert. There's just not. Like, we're all winging it. So not only did I make myself sound, not only did that make me sound like I thought I was an elitist, like I had it all figured out, but when the people who saw me on the morning show then saw me later in Target and my kid was pitching a fit in aisle 5, they were like, she's a fraud. So I said, please don't call me a parenting expert. Like, I'm just trying to make it through. I have some strategies and I have some ways of bringing humor into my world, but to say that I think I'm an expert at this is crazy. So while I was on that little monologue there, okay, Michael said I was down to $18 in my checking account. Nikki, I had no one who had ever been where I was. And Peace said, I was newly diagnosed and hadn't found a great support group yet. No one understood my fears. That is a huge one, is finding people who understand your fears. And let me tell you, and you probably know this, Peace, if you can't find them in your coffee, like if you can't meet them face to face, you find them online or through books. You find someone who tells their story in a way that you go, okay, this is as close as I can get to sitting down and having coffee with someone who feels the way I feel. And that is where your experience and your credentials beat any degree you could ever have in your subject matter. So box 8, who else played a pivotal role in your journey? And this is important and can be helpful because it helps you tell stories. And it helps you encourage others as to where they can go to find extra support. You never want to present yourself. I don't ever want to present myself, certainly, as the be all end all to anyone's. That's a lot of pressure to put on me. And it's just not even realistic, right? I am honored to play a part in people's growth, but I know they're going to need other things I can't give because I haven't been there. And so sometimes it's great to give people ideas of where else they can turn. So who else played a pivotal role in your journey? So Sue says, my dog. Leslie, a mentor I seeked out and didn't even think would say yes. Billy, my sister. Mary says, Amy Poehler and Amy Schumer equals the Amy's. Well, I mean, Amy Poehler and Amy Schumer can get most of us through anything, right? And Javon said, my family. So it's really important to just think that through, to come up with stories and ways that they helped you, lessons they taught you, because you can certainly infuse those within your book. So these 8 boxes, this is your major outline. These are your big rocks, and you don't have to just stop at these 8. You can keep asking yourself questions, and we're going to get to that in a second, but this is where you start. This is from where you start. And the last thing I want you guys to do, I want you to set a date. When you're writing a book, and this is probably true in most entrepreneurial things, but when you're writing a book, deadlines are your best friend. You have to be disciplined. You have to hold yourself accountable. I want you to set a date sometime within the next 3 weeks by which you are going to commit to having your outline finished. your rough outline. You may add some things to it here and there or take some things out, but your rough, full outline, I want you to set a date and commit to it. So I want you to commit in writing. I would like you to put right in the chat rooms. We already have October 21st from Billy. Billy, you're on it. Sam says October 13th. Jillian says October 15th. Okay, so I love this. In the next 3 weeks, and I want you to go, when we get off of this here, I want you to go on your calendar, and I want you to put it on your calendar, and then I want you to schedule time between now and then to make sure you're working on it so that the day before, the night before, you don't get an alert and go, oh my gosh, I've procrastinated or I've just forgotten about it. Life's gotten in the way and I haven't looked at it. So I want you to commit to that because that's the first base camp, guys. I think of writing a book like Climbing Mount Everest, which I've never done and will never do. I know never say never, but this is one place where it is absolutely appropriate. When you're climbing Mount Everest, as far as I understand it, you don't think about getting all the way to the top. The first thing they focus on is just getting to the first base camp. This is your first base camp. Get your outline done. We'll go from there, but this is your first base camp. So now what, right? Because I know you're going to go, well, what do I do once I get to the base camp? What do I do then? So you have two options. You can get overwhelmed and procrastinate. Again, I love this meme on the right. If procrastination were an Olympic sport, I'd compete later. That cracks me up. Or you can let me help you reach the finish line, finally. So you're here because you know you have a book inside of you, but you don't believe that you have the time to actually write it. Or that plus you get so overwhelmed every time you think about the process that you find something, anything else to do. Or you need an accountability or motivation partner who can calm you down when you think you aren't good enough to write a best-selling book and motivate you when you start to lose momentum. Writing a book is not nearly as overwhelming as you likely believe, guys. You simply need a step-by-step process, a support system, and an accountability partner or partners. It is time to stop simply dreaming about writing a book and write one already. So I would like to introduce you to Write Your Book in 75 Days, the proven step-by-step blueprint to getting your book finally written. There are 3 course modules. The first is a huge expansion on the Determine Your Why that we started this workshop with. We're going to hone the critical mission and vision of your book and sniper focus your efforts. The second module is an expansion upon the last part of this workshop we did, creating your book structure. So you're going to learn the low stress approach to getting high. You just did your high level book content, but we're going to get from high to low level content out of your head and into outline form. And my favorite part of this module is a bonus that I put together for you guys. It is a video walkthrough. It's about 16 and a half minutes long of a software. It's a free software called Evernote that I was introduced to a couple of years ago and have used consistently for creating and organizing my book outlines. It's fabulous. And when you first get into Evernote, like any other software, it's like, this is a lot. So I walk you right through exactly how to set up your software system. And I even show you my exact notebooks and how I have my current book that I'm working on right now, my 4th book, how I'm have the working outline in there. And then module 3 is the actual writing, how and when. And this is where you discover how to identify and schedule a lifestyle specific approach to go from outline to completed manuscript. So I know that you're busy. I'm busy. I know that all of our lifestyles differ. Some of us can get up at 4. I'm not one of them, but some people can get up at 4 a.m. and write. Some people write at night. Some people write on the weekends. Some people schedule an hour 3 times a week. Some people schedule 5 hours 1 time a week. They're all different approaches. And so I give you a whole bunch of approaches. I help you figure out which one works best for you. And then most importantly, I help you actually schedule it. I teach you how to schedule it on your calendar so that you can meet your deadline, your end date, your 75-day end date. And if life gets in the way in the middle of it, you don't panic because you're scheduled to write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. A kid got sick on Monday and Tuesday, so now you're behind by 2 days. You're completely panicked and you can't pick up again. I teach you how to avoid that entirely. So what you will create a solid foundation, which is a thorough understanding of the critical why behind your book project. You will create an efficient and fluid, meaning that it can change, outline of your book's content. You're going to get all of those stories, messages, and lessons out of your head and organized. A lifestyle-specific writing approach along with a customized writing schedule with manageable deadlines. So none of this craziness, no pressure here. And then finally, and most importantly, you're going to create your raw manuscript. So your story, your message written, finally. And how does all this come to you? What do you get? Well, you get 2 training workbooks that are downloadable and printable. You will receive accountability emails. I am not a teacher who, when people enroll in my courses, I disappear. That drives me insane. I'm here with you for the haul. So you will receive accountability emails from me every 4 to 6 days, starting about a week in, because I give you about a week to acclimate and get comfortable. And then these accountability emails will be coming out. They will inspire, empower. I will tell you about other authors just like you who have been where you are and how they got to where they go, tips and tricks and inspiration. And I will be customizing these as we go based on questions that I'm getting from you guys in terms of here's where I'm stuck, how do I handle it? So the course is 100% online. Therefore, you can work at your own pace on your own timeline. There are 3 detailed training modules. There's the bonus Evernote software training, and there's the members only mastermind group, which is over on Facebook. I find this to be incredibly valuable in the courses that I'm enrolled in because it's a place where people just like you are going through exactly what you're going through, and you can bounce ideas and questions. I jump in there. I make customized videos for you guys based on your questions and concerns. Where are you stuck? It's great to have a group of us, and not a group of 10,000, by the way, but a manageably sized group who can all focus on and help each other get to our goals. And the fast action bonus I mentioned at the beginning of the workshop is available for registration until midnight tonight. It's a 1-hour live Q&A session with me. It's a group session. If we get too many people into it, we'll break it out into multiple sessions. But during this session, you can ask me anything. And this is another great quote from Brandy that just when I'm not even comfortable reading it out loud, so I'll let you do it. But it just makes my heart happy when I get this sort of feedback from course participants, because this is exactly what I'm looking to create from you guys, is an instilled sense of confidence and belief in yourself, as well as the skills to get this thing done. So are you ready to go? Jillian, this is a different Jillian than we have on the call right now, but Jillian has gone through the course, and it was funny, the night before she signed up, she sent me an email and she said, I was planning to tell you that I'm too stretched for time. Maybe I'll revisit it in a year or so. But then that gut feeling whispered, don't chicken out. I'm busy, I'm tired, I have laundry that is never done, and I have dishes to wash. Life is hard, there are plenty of excuses, but there will never be a time when most of those things aren't true. So I'm ready to start now. And yes, it's a decision, it's a choice. There may always be a tomorrow, but it's easy to push things off. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. I'll do it when the kids are grown up. I'll do it when my house is finally cleaned. I'll do it once I've paid. There's no better. All we have is this moment. And this is a great moment to say, let's do this. But of course, I know you're wondering, well, what the heck is this going to cost me? The total value of this course, and this is not including the fast action bonus, the $275 value fast action bonus, the total value of the modules, the bonuses, the workbooks, the Facebook group, etc., is $679. However, your investment is just $197, one payment of $197. So you can get started today by going to publishaprofitablebook.com/write for one payment of I did this yesterday too. I flip-flopped the 7 and the 9, $197. And that gets you unlimited lifetime access to the course. And what that means is that I'm constantly honing my courses, constantly. I'm upgrading them, I'm updating them, I'm adding new content, I'm adding new bonuses, new resources, new tips and tricks. At this price point, this locks you in for the lifetime to have access to all those upgrades as well. So you will never have to pay an upgrade fee to get all of the new content. Once you're in, you're in. And everything that's new you have access to. I want you to see, because it's important to me to walk you through everything. When you go to publishaprofitablebook.com/write, this is the page that you're going to see. And if you scroll down a little bit, you will see this. You'll see the countdown timer, which is not operational right now because this is obviously a screenshot, but the cart will be open for 1 week. And you can click, when you click enroll now, you will come to this section. And again, you see another enroll now button at the bottom. And when you click on that, you will go to secure checkout. And you just do it all right here. So it's easy peasy, first name, last name, email, credit card, expiration, and CVC code, click enroll. And the minute you click that, you have instant access to everything. We don't drip the content out to you. The minute you enroll, you have full access to all of the content. So you will be redirected to this page, but also when you log into your members area, this is what you will see. There's a video of me explaining, welcoming you to the course, explaining how to navigate the site, where to find your modules, where to find your bonuses, how to get into the Facebook group, etc. And you can get started right now. Now, people ask oftentimes, is there a money back guarantee? What if this doesn't work for me? And absolutely. I have never been comfortable with people paying me for something that doesn't work for them. So I believe that this course works. It not only works for me, but it's worked for dozens of other people who have taken it since I launched it just 6 weeks ago. So if you show me that you did the required work from the first 2 modules and you're still not satisfied, this program is still not working for you, I will gladly refund your purchase. So there's really no risk at all to you to giving this a shot. If you need any help enrolling or you have any questions, this is my personal email, elizabeth@publishaprofitablebook.com. You can email me directly. By the way, I always respond to emails, to my own emails. And it may take a few days if things are really crazy here, but I always respond. And I'm doing something a little differently this time. I actually was a participant in a webinar a few months ago, and the gentleman who hosted it did this. He gave out his personal phone number and said to people, if you have questions, if you need to make a personal connection with me before you are comfortable embarking on this, here's my cell phone number. Shoot me a text and let's talk. And I thought that is really dangerous, potentially. But I also thought it was really great because I am a huge fan of making a personal connection, not only with my teachers, but with my students. And so this is my personal cell phone number. Now, if you call it, I likely won't answer it because I get so filled up with telemarketers that if I don't recognize a number, I don't answer. But if you text me and you say, hi, this is Jillian, here's my question, I will text you right back. As long as I'm not picking up kids, I will text you right back, but give me 2 hours and you will hear from me. And if we need to get on a phone call, we will absolutely do that because I want you to be comfortable. So for the next 10 minutes or so, I have 8 minutes left. So I'm two minutes over, but I think that's still pretty good for me. I'm impressed. I am a talker, and I know I talk fast, but I am a talker. So I could go on with this for a while, but I'm very respectful of you guys' time. I want to take questions that you have. So please feel free to ask them right over in the chat box. And okay, so Carrie says, what do I do when I'm finished? I assume you mean when you're finished writing the book. And that is a valid question. And I actually get that a lot, not even in conjunction with this course, but okay, but what do I do when I'm finished writing the book? There is an answer for that, and it's a step-by-step process. I actually have another course. Let me explain really quickly why this course, Write Your Book in 75 Days, was created. About 4 to 5 months ago, I created my flagship course, which is called Publish a Profitable Book. And it is a much bigger course than Write Your Book in 75 Days. It walks you step by step from the time when you need to find an editor, how to find an editor, all of that, all the way until you are holding your published book in your hands and you're out doing all of your marketing, and et cetera. I had a lot of people interested in that course who said, I want to do this, but here's the thing. It starts at editing. I don't even have the manuscript written yet. So how do I do that part first? And that is why Write Your Book in 75 Days came to be. So the answer to your question, Carrie, is when you're finished, we assess how you're going to get that book out. And I walk you step by step. If you so choose, it's my honor to walk you step by step through the process of actually getting your book published. But the first thing we have to do is get your book written. And Debbie is asking, how long do I have to finish? Great question, Debbie. So do you get cut off at 75 days? Absolutely not. Again, you have unlimited lifetime access. I am a mom of 5, and I have signed up for a lot of courses over the last several years that say, do X in 90 days or have this happen in 6 months. And I think, gosh, that sounds perfectly reasonable and manageable. And then life gets in the way, a kid gets sick, something happens that I truly have to take a quick little hiatus from whatever the course topic is. And it would be really frustrating if I had invested in a course and then gotten locked out of it at that 90-day mark or 6-month mark or whatever the case may be, in this case, 75 days, simply because life got in the way. I don't ever want, I'm going to push you guys in a kind way to get this done in 75 days because I believe that you can. At the same time, if something happens, I get that life happens. And so I'm still here and the course is still here for you to pick up wherever and whenever you can and get yourself started again. So, Debbie, great question. And you have your entire life to finish. And again, keep in mind, we don't want that to happen, but keep in mind that as new updates and upgrades are added, you will absolutely have access to those as well. I joined a course on Facebook ads, I'd say 2 or so years ago. And as you know, or may know, Facebook ads the rules are constantly changing. And that was the course that I was speaking of a second ago when I said something got in the way and I had to put things off for a bit. And so I had to put things off actually for a couple of months. And in those 2 months that I stopped working on the Facebook ads course, some rules in Facebook had changed. And if the course creator were not as brilliant as she is, and as kind and as genuine, she would have just been like, sorry, like that's what the information was when you signed up for the course. But no, as information changes, she goes in and updates the course. So I had all the confidence in the world that I could take care of what I needed to take care of personally, because when I got back in 2 months later, if anything had changed, and it had, that she would have updated the modules, put in, notes and things that let all of us know, okay, wait, don't do that anymore. This is what you need to do now. So that I greatly appreciate as a course taker. And I certainly have implemented that in my role as a course leader. And that I think is important and valuable. Okay, so Chris is asking, how much time do I have to commit each day? It varies. And I hate the answer, it depends. I really don't care for that much, but it does vary and it depends how you're going to do it. And that's why Module 2 has been so beneficial for participants, because I teach you how to create a schedule that works based on your lifestyle and how you write. There are many writers who have to write 3,000 words a day. That's just their protocol. I can't do that. There are many writers who get up at 4 a.m. every day to write. I can't do that. So I personally am a binge writer. I will schedule 2 days a week. I will schedule 3-hour blocks and I will just write for those 3 hours. That's me. That doesn't work for some people. Some people don't have 3-hour blocks. Some people can't write for that long. So I teach you how to create something that works for you. But I also teach you how to break up that 75 days into topics, big or small, whatever your choice may be, so that you can keep yourself accountable and take little steps toward getting, think of them as your little base camps on the way to the Mount Everest. Let's just keep the Mount Everest analogy going. That's what I teach you how to do. So the answer is, there will be some days when you don't have to commit. And I actually encourage you, by the way, not to commit time every single day. Some people do, and that's fine. If it works for you, great. But if you're someone where you get overwhelmed, if you end up having to skip a day, then I don't recommend that approach for the obvious reason. My goal here is to keep you from being overwhelmed. So I want to thank you guys. If you have any more questions in the next second, certainly shoot them. Okay, so Chris is asking, you shall receive. Does this work for fiction? So I I am writing fiction myself. I do not consider myself to be a fiction writing teacher. I just want to be super honest about that. I teach nonfiction and memoir, which in a way there's some crossover there. Technically, memoir is you're telling your story, so it's nonfiction. But I think of sort of how-to nonfiction as you're interspersing stories and telling your message, sharing your message. So I am not 100% would it work for fiction? Absolutely, especially if you can, instead of doing a content brain dump, you're doing a topic brain dump, like, this pivotal moment. If you're outlining pivotal moments in a story and you know what those pivotal moments are, and you just need to get your characters from point A to point B to point C to point D. That is actually how I work on my own fiction. However, the course itself is with the questions that are asked about what is your why and what is your reader's why and things like that. It is geared more toward nonfiction and memoir. So I do want to be really clear about that, because I don't want anyone to get into it and think this doesn't work for me. I want to set everybody up for the optimum success right from the get-go. Okay, so I want to thank you guys so incredibly much for joining me today. This was, again, super fun. It's such an honor to do workshops and webinars with dynamic people, because you guys make me laugh, and I love to laugh. So if you have any questions at all, again, the fast track bonus ends tonight. Today is Thursday, the 29th at midnight. If you have any questions whatsoever, please do not hesitate to email me, Elizabeth@publishaprofitablebook.com. Or my phone number is still on there as well. You can text me. Again, if you call, I probably won't answer if I don't recognize the number, but feel free to send me a text. Let me know who you are and what your question is, and I will get right back to you. And if we need to set up a phone call, I'm more than happy to do that. If you have any questions that you weren't comfortable answering or asking publicly through the chat, you are more than welcome to email or text me and ask them, and I'm more than happy to talk them through with you. So I cannot wait to welcome you into the program and to get going, getting your story or your message out into the world. Thank you guys so very much, and I greatly look forward to talking with you soon.